This is Defacto Review, where we run down the previous news of the past week, and then we discuss what happens next. Hi, I'm Terrence Edwards, and with us tonight is our host, Jargal Defacto. How are you, Jargal?
Doing well, thank you. Good evening, everybody. We are ready for making a review on the most important to our view for 5 events in the country last week.
How are you holding up with the colder weather?
Well, it's still to come.
Well, summer's over, though.
Yes. Okay.
All right, well, let's look at what we have to discuss today. We begin our program with the removed tax hikes. The Jargal Tolgoi Erdenberg government has withdrawn a host of tax hikes and amendments this week before Parliament had a chance to discuss the legislation. The withdrawn bills included 25% income tax on salaries of more than 2.5 million tugriks a month, taxes on real estate and automobiles, and a 20% sales tax on tobacco and alcohol products. This also means that the 30% salary cuts to high-ranking public officials has not yet been made, and it also means that the welfare programs, such as the student stipends, are still in effect. So the tax, that's most likely a relief to a lot of people in the country. But then again, how can the government manage its deficit, which we had heard it's as high as 20.6%.
Well, that's the big question now. The Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Munkbat, said that the returning of this issue or not discussing the issue of tax hike was a political decision. So that means that the very submission of the issues may be apolitical. Anyway, whatever is their decisions, which is refusing to discuss the 8 hikes of 8 different taxes, now is putting the government into very hard positions because they need either to borrow more or to cut completely many costs, which is very unlikely. So most probably they try to restructure the law. In the worst case, they may print money, which will be very bad for further economic health of the country, which is already not very good.
Yeah, inflation up, devaluation of the currency.
And the other issue was the last week the Parliament had discussed and amended the budget for this year. The problem for this budget is Mongolian government started to amend any year budget 2 or 3 times, which is very bad news. Now, question is, how do they do that tax budget? On which basis and which methodology they have been using? Because now the people having some doubt how professionals are there. Why the Mongolian budget should include the dream list of every parliamentarian? Because cabinet is suggesting one thing, but parliamentarians add many things, that the budget is becoming kind of almost absurd. So, for example, the issue of giving money to every student. It was not the case before, even during socialism. It is a case when the talented students cannot afford, then the best students are given scholarships or special stipendium. In that case, I think the higher education went on his own road. Not anymore. Because it was a lobby of parliamentarians who had owned private institutions, owned universities, higher educational institutions, lobbied in such a way that they pay from budget every student studying there. As a result, we have so many universities, so many students, each paid every month some salary. As a result, they keep just increasing unemployment, though with a diploma. So that's another problem in Mongolia. We have a lot of people having no jobs, though they have diploma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's again a policy issue, you see. So they need to cut many costs, and I think even if they don't cut it, but they will not be able to continue paying this money in these current circumstances. So the issue is how this government will make priority, which social welfare or the sort of money will be paid not from the beginning. So it's a priority issue, it's a time issue.
Looking at some of these that were part of the items, there were also some concerns that it would affect competitiveness. Specifically, there was the repeal of the discount on the gold tax, the gold royalty and taxes. And there was, when you look at more professional, highly skilled workers, repats, expats, Mongolian workers, the 25% income tax looked quite steep to retain that talent.
Well, if you remember, we have targeted in 2, I think, programs in a row. People were completely unhappy with that substantial 2.5 times increase of income tax. And many people were now applying for even abroad a visa for other foreign countries. So it was a matter of losing a lot young professionals, in particular those who got education in the West, expensive education they paid for, and if they cannot pay anymore their mortgage and other things, a lot of young professionals will run away from the country. And it's another brain drain, which we so much worked for to bring back.
And you touched briefly on some of the social welfare spending. Is cutting these programs at this point inevitable? Is it unavoidable?
Well, they may say that they will not cut, but they will be in a position of not being able to pay for several months from now on, or from next, or a couple of months from now, because there is not much money, and that's what is being discussed openly first time among even People's Party deputies last week. Okay.
Moving on to our next topic. Mongolia is mulling the prospect of borrowing even more as it looks forward to 2.5 trillion in debt payments in the next 2 years. The country has more than 22 trillion in debt for the government to wrangle, or 81.3% of GDP. If the government chooses to borrow more to refinance its debt, that figure would likely grow to 88% of GDP, according to the chairman of the Parliament's Standing Committee for the Budget, B. Horolbatar. Mongolia has 1 trillion to pay this year for its debt and 1.5 trillion next year. This is for the sovereign and sovereign-backed bonds. Given all the inconsistencies we've heard in some months about the budget, what do you think about this 81% and 88% debt to GDP ratios?
That's a big concern. As just last year, they have agreed that 2015 budget, when they discussed the budget, they agreed that they still increased the total debt of the government to be under 58%. It was before under 40%.
Yeah.
Then they made the law that 85, it will 2015 it will be 58.3%, and 16 this year under 55%, 17 under 50%, 18 under 40%. It's again a kind of their dream wish list, okay, and. Now what is happening now is they now instead of not 55, but they will increase up to now 81%, which is currently today, and they want the foreign debt ceiling to be 88% of the GDP. So now question, if they make a law 1 year today, and after less than 12 months, they change it again, increasing that ceiling, what's the point of making a law?
Yeah.
Make it just now, 200% of the GDP straight. So this is raising several important questions like competence of the lawmakers, competence of the Ministry of Finance, and the way they run the economy and the budget.
Yeah.
So these sort of questions now, people don't like it and we are not happy, in particular when the parliamentarians and Mongolian government officials, they violate their own law, and instead of correcting themselves, their own mistakes, they are correcting the laws. And we call it Zaisening, after the name of Zaiseng area, where this area was developed, supposed to be developed for only tourism. So it's under the name of nature protection law, which starts the lines, the border starts from the south bank of the Tul River, all the way to south. It's kind of nature protected area. But they changed the law. They sold the Zaiseng land under the table. Mongolian the decision makers, they made themselves rich, and they made somehow a district, not any kind of protected area. So what they did, they changed the law. They changed the border of the protected area to be not the south bank of the Tul River, but all the way the edge of the forest in these mountains. So this is a clear example how Mongolian lawmakers are making laws according to their needs, and they want and they can change anytime they want. What kind of laws are these? So that's the concern with the civil society is raising in the country. The other thing is why this government is not taking hold responsible for those who got all this money and not paying, or siphoned the money, misused the money. And there are some loud cases coming to press sometimes, and they eventually disappear. So instead of discussing how to pay by the people who get the money, mostly of our politicians, their related companies, they now try to increase the tax. It didn't work. So this is the way how this country is run. So what we are missing is justice in the society. And this justice framework, justice system of this country don't work because they are dependent on the politicians. So that's the vicious circle.
Yeah.
Justice is not happening. The lawmakers are making a new law, then they misuse them, then remake this law, this limits. So this is the governance issue again. And I think at the end also it is some kind of accounting rules, procedures issue. I mean, they don't like the limits, they increase, they change. And how you can change all the budget or your balance every time like this?
Yeah.
So it's irresponsibility from the side of the politicians who are running the country.
Yeah, the only thing that's been consistent with the fiscal stability law is they've consistently moved the yardstick of how much they can borrow, and we've seen that repeatedly year after year. And it's not a very old law, it's brand new in fact, only a couple of years.
Now, unfortunately, it is this People's Party power and Democratic Party power are the same. They are both, I mean, from our perspective, from ordinary people perspective, doesn't matter which political party is in the power. But we want to have governors, the lawmakers who are honest, doing right jobs based on professionalism, which is not the case.
Yeah.
So that's why people are very much discontent with what's going on in the country.
So one of the big platforms of the Mongolian People's Party in the election was they were discontinuing this borrowing spree. Do you think, even if it's to refinance past debt taken out by the past government, do you think voters will accept this, or they'll see it as going back on their promise? Or how about for you personally?
Well, now they are in a situation where they have to borrow. But the issue is, can they borrow? At which cost? Because now the sovereign wealth fund, sovereign bond of Mongolia is the level of 11-12%.
Yeah.
Ranking of Mongolian credit capacity is very low now, -B, for example. So in that circumstances, can the government raise another fund? Most likely not. Or they will
not
borrow
cheaply.
Yeah, they can borrow with a lot of other conditions from particular borrowers, the lenders. So on one side they need to borrow. On the other side, it's hard to borrow.
Yeah.
And so they are looking for all possible ways to go out, including what we are going to discuss as the next one is mega projects.
Yeah, when the finance minister first made their decisions, immediately the credit raters reacted and there were some downgrades. So if they were thinking at that point, well, we might have to refinance our debt, they kind of put themselves in a corner where they made it more expensive for them to do so, especially if some of those numbers had been exaggerated, as some critics had said.
Exactly.
We go on to the Tolgoi mine, which hasn't come up recently, but the Tolgoi coking coal mine is again taking center stage as it looks to be a lifeline for the economy more than a year after an agreement with a consortium led by Mongolian Mining Corporation was blocked by the parliament the same day executives were in Ulaanbaatar to sign the deal. Coking coal is on the rise, hitting $150 a ton last week, making coal mines like Tolgoi attractive once more. When we talk about these coal prices, these are the coal-making ingredient for steel coking coal. The state-owned unit for the mine, Ernest Tolgoi, currently sells its coal at $27 a ton, which is a reduced fixed price set to repay $350 million US dollars in debt to the Chinese commodity company Chalco. Jargal, why has Tolgoi been such a magnet for controversy and that's held back from a strategic investment and eventually the initial public offering of the Ernest Tolgoi mining unit?
Current situation and the exit from the current not good situation, you cannot imagine without these two mega projects like Oyu Tolgoi and Tavan Tolgoi. Oyu Tolgoi is doing in its own way good, but Tavan Tolgoi is not that case because Tavan Tolgoi is a state-owned enterprise. And as any other state-owned enterprises, it is a lot misused. And two previous CEO of Tavan Tolgoi, we cannot find them. They made a very expensive purchases, whatever. There are so many files open there, but they cannot find these people. So what this Chalco deal is again, it is a politically motivated loan that in order to pay it now, they are selling at the level of 27%, almost 5 times less than the market price, current market price. So wherever Mongolian state-owned enterprises come, the corruption comes. The sort of misdeal, bad prices are coming.
Yeah.
And because it is good for the political parties before the election, during the election, or after election. So unfortunately, these Tavan Tolgoi cases are mostly coming from misgovernance by Mongolian government. And so that's the very big concern of ordinary Mongolian civic society of Mongolia. The other case, speaking about like this Tavan Tolgoi, other mega projects, are being talked a lot. And unfortunately, big projects are not being implemented even after they made proper decisions. But if power is changing, they are not running it because they don't move it until it is good for their own private companies or so. A lot conflict of interests. And a very clear example is power station number 5. 10 times they found the locations to lay the foundations, 10 times. We talk about 20 years, and still it's not moving.
10 locations in 20 years.
And now let me talk a bit about large projects like Tavan Tolgoi.
Sure.
Because I visited Inner Mongolia last week. I have seen a big energy enthusiasm to do the same the steep roads of Mongolia, because it's all these roads come, 3 railway roads, 3 road projects all go through Inner Mongolia. They invest a lot already. They put their railway, car, road, all infrastructure already there, but now they need to connect. And from Mongolian side, it's not very clear. We talk a lot, but nothing is moving. So they have a great concern, this one belt, one road idea is coming more clear because the one 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 belt means completely new Asia-European, based on the Silk Road, new kind of area of cooperation, trade, transportation. But the one way is, this is new way on ocean. It's an ocean transport issue.
To get to the seaports.
Yes, so so China is looking at very big picture. And Mongolia is one of the 7 directions they want to do. And Mongolia, Russia, China should be together on the project with all 3 countries should benefit, not necessarily one. So they should work on the win-win situation. That's how they see now the project. And I think Mongolia in particular, being in between 2 countries where they have 2 different railways gauges, and they have a number 1, number 2, number 3 largest railway network in the country, in the world. So that 85 millimeter differences are good chance for Mongolians to develop transport logistics services in Mongolia. I mean, from south, Chinese railways coming to the middle of the Mongolia. From north, Russians come, and wherever they meet, these 2 different gauges meet, we will have a service of transferring loads from one to another. Yeah. So this sort of new role of logistic services Mongolia can consider. So we should continue, we should go ahead with our mega projects. Basically, that could be a good base for increasing employment, increasing tax bases, and increasing the turning of cash. So I think it is a good way of thinking or working out of a crisis.
And we mentioned before that Ernest Tavan Tolgoi is selling $27 a ton versus $150 a ton in the Chinese market. We've heard there's been some complaints in the industry, specifically from Mongolian Mining Corporation, that the state-owned Ernest Tavan Tolgoi is actually dragging down prices for all the producers in the Gobi region. What do you make of this?
That was the concern from the beginning. But the Chinese brokers were buying Mongolian coals with different prices, negotiating, bringing to their border, and then they were mixing it. And then they were selling it in the Mongolian kind of brand. So that was the major cases for all these years, last years. Now still they continue with that, and hopefully with the railway made, this coal from Tavan Tolgoi can go all the way to the southeast part of the China, where the major consumers are. But however, for any projects like Tavan Tolgoi, we need to make sure that those who are making or investing in the railways and other infrastructure, they make sure that the buyers are there. Buyers give a guarantee that they will buy. Otherwise, Mongolia may end up with the situation that we borrow a lot of money, make infrastructure like the railways, then at the end, no buyers. They will say some reasons, they will find a reason not to buy. So to make sure that the buyers are there and they can get, even if investors, buyers together, that would be the best cases for the develop a bigger project. Otherwise, I don't see a lot rational now. But there's only one good project they should do immediately is the power station at Tavan Tolgoi, which after construction can supply OT, who is buying now power from China with a lot expensive.
Yeah, from Inner Mongolia.
Yeah, so that's the situation of mega projects in the country.
You mentioned the power exporting and selling to OT. You know, looking today, we have $150 a ton in China, but analysts say this is probably short term because more supply will be coming to the market. So this isn't going to be a long honeymoon for coal prices.
Well, like any commodities, they all have cycles, different kind of ups and downs.
So key to this will be coal washing, downstream market value.
That's what this energy resource is doing. They are selling washed coal, only facility we have in Mongolia. Otherwise, if we just dig it out, send it, the value will be cheaper. So now the issue is initial processing or washing coals put into such a way that it has more values, and we can put it on the railway. It can go all the way to Borat, the city on the other side of China border, and then all the way to go to east coast of China.
Yeah. With the Discover Mongolia was this week, and there was a lot of talk about how they could use coal for plastics, gases, all these synthetic gases, etc. Those are great, but again, we have a long road to get to there. Key to keeping this an integral part of the economy, though, will be value adding to these coal products. Because just the raw coal is not going to do it for the next decades to come.
Exactly. For that, we need a bigger investment, foreign investment with high currency. And for that, also, still we need more stability of the government, stability of the business environment, not changing laws like last week when they want to increase tax hike.
Yeah.
So that's the situation.
We move on to our final topic for the evening. Parliament has voted to overturn President Sakia Elbek-Dort's veto of a resolution that withdrew a raft of legislation submitted to Parliament by the government under Democratic Party Prime Minister Chmed Sakambilik. President Elbek-Dort earlier this month vetoed a parliamentary resolution from August that withdrew laws that would have reformed the judicial system, as well as one bill that sought to criminalize domestic abuse. In the case for that domestic abuse law, the state-owned news agency Mansame has reported that the Ministry of Justice has submitted a revised bill under the same title.
We are talking about 5 laws.
Yeah. Looking at these laws, how would they have affected the judicial system?
Well, we should tell the names of the laws. It's the law on criminal adjudication, the law on law enforcement procedure, the law on prosecuting authority, the law on enforcement of court decisions, the law on domestic violence. So these are 5 laws.
Yeah.
And basically, in short, it says that the government called back the law they have adopted before.
The cabinet.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the president put veto, and the parliament had discussed, and they said we will not accept the veto.
They overturned it.
So as a result, these laws will not be enforced by today. What does that mean? I raised one question: how come that the government, the parliament is making not valid the law they have approved before? By that logic, they can neglect or they can reject every law they have made before. I mean, what is that? I mean, why is that the law? It's the parliament should have laws, right? They should make that's main job. Then they are now withdrawing the laws they made before.
It raises a little bit apprehension. Will they undo some of the good from the last administration?
Yeah, I think I have heard Mr. Nyam Dorch, a very prominent deputy of People's Party, were making very harsh remarks about President Elbek-Dorch, blaming him and his team for making a legal system a complete mess for last years, he said. It was very strange or strong statement from his side.
He's of the Mongolian People's Party?
Yes, and we are now very worried because, I mean, who are these people? I mean, how they can make such understanding in a statement and such a things. If it is true, then where's the justice system in the country? And we know one thing, that some big deals, some big cases of criminal actions slowly disappearing, making silent. So this is the classical way of these two democratic and People's Parties actions for last almost 12 years. You know, like on one side we see some cases, criminal cases are coming on media, and now we are expecting, oh, finally the justice will arrive. It never arrives. So it's an issue of the structure, the issue of the system, where we need to fight, where we need to make house clean.
We have another year with this president, so we'll be watching to see if there's more tensions between this Democratic president and this Mongolian People's Party's legislature and cabinet.
So again, all this crisis is what situation we have today are mostly political, which transferred to economic cases.
Yes. Well, that's our program for the evening. We hope our briefings have given you a heads up as you enter the new work week. Have you any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you very much for watching us, and please watch us every time now on Facebook. Also, it's live streaming.
Okay.
And also from tomorrow, from next day, you can rewatch the program on jargaldefacto.com website. And thank you very much for watching us, and send us message if you see particularly, if you want to see particular cases discussed here. Thank you.
Good night, Olambatar.